All right, we're ready for worksheet 5A for the Math 4 course. This isn't necessarily related to the topic, but I found it humorous. I don't think the guy getting the tattoo is going to be amused in the end, but that's just me. All right, numero uno. Two ships are sailing from Halifax. The Nina is sailing due east, and the Pinta is sailing south of east. So I guess we can go ahead and label this as Halifax. The Nina is sailing due east, and the Pinta is sailing in this direction, 43 degrees south of east. I guess that would be that right there, and this is due east in this direction. After an hour, the Nina has traveled 115 kilometers, and the Pinta has traveled 98 kilometers. How far apart are the two ships? Well, this is a classic setup for a cosine, law of cosines problem. I'm going to go ahead and say little h squared equals little n squared plus little p squared minus 2np times cosine of big H. And so we'll fill in the players. H squared is what I've called x squared, so I'll fill that in that way. Little n would be the 98, little p would be the 115, and then 2 times 98 times 115 times cosine of 43. So I've got all of my players on one side. I can punch every bit of that into the calculator, and then we'll see what x squared is. Okay, and we wind up with a little over 6344 for x squared. And so I'm going to want to go back and do a square root of that answer. And I get 79.65. So we might as well call it 80 kilometers. Okay. Three friends are camping in the woods, Bert, Ernie, and Grover. All right, there's Bert, there's Ernie, there's Grover. Let's see, Bert and Ernie are 10 meters apart. The angle formed at Bert is 30 degrees. The angle formed at Grover is 105. How far apart are Ernie and Grover? Ernie and Grover. We actually have all the players we need for law of sines. I've got the 105 matching up with the 10, and then the 30 matches up with the x. So we'll come over here and we'll say 105 over 10 equals sine 30 over x. Cross multiply, I get x sine 105, and I get 10 sine 30. And then I'm going to divide both sides by sine 105. And we'll see what Mr. Calculator comes up with. And we wind up with x being 5.17, so we'll call it about 5 meters. Okay. All right. Caleb is walking around the lake. Let's say that Caleb starts here and he walks 95 meters in this direction. And he turns and walks a new path, which is 120 degrees to the direction he was first walking in. I'm going to guess that's what that meant, and then 87 meters. And he arrives at the other end of the lake. E for end. Approximately how long is the lake? So we've got one of those situations where we've got big A and little a, so to speak. So we could set it up as x squared equals 95 squared plus 87 squared minus 2 times 95 times 87 times the cosine of 120. And once again, we can plug all of that in and get one big answer for this. And for total, we get a nice round number of 248.59, which when I take my square root of that number, I get something a little less round. That's going to be 157.667. We'll call it about 158 meters. This sort of makes sense because 120 should be the largest angle in the triangle. So 158 should be the largest side across from it. 3 down, 2 to go. All right. Points A and B are on opposite sides of the Grand Canyon. Point C is 200 yards from point A. Angle B measures 87 degrees. Angle C measures 67. What is the distance from A to B? So we've got more than enough here. We've got 87 and the 200, and we've got 67 and the x. So that is perfect for law of sines. Sine of 87 over 200 equals sine 67 over x. When I cross multiply, x times sine 87 equals 200. Bless you. 200 sine 67. All right, then I'm going to divide both sides by sine 87. And we'll see what the calculator says. And the calculator is telling me about 184. We were in yards here, so I presume that our answer is in yards altogether. I'm going to have to guess that this is a place in the Grand Canyon where it's not the national park, because the national park is like about 3 miles wide. All right, number last. Two scuba divers are 20 meters apart below the surface of the water. They both spot a shark that is below them. So I've got scuba diver A and B, and then I've got the shark. And they are 20 meters apart. Angle of depression from diver 1 to the shark is 47. Angle of depression from diver 2 is 40. How far are each of the divers from the shark? So we're going to be looking for little b and little a, across from big A and across from big B. Now, so far, let's see, we could, yeah, we can use law of sines, but we have to find that third angle first. We have to say 47 plus 40 plus s equals 180, and s, 40 and 47 is 87. Take that away from 180 and you're left with 93. And so we can do 93 matches to 20 the way that 40 matches to B, the way that 47 matches to A. It's going to take two separate problems, but all right, so we can do sine of 93 over 20 is going to match up with sine of 47 over little a, cross multiply, Divide both sides by sine 93. And we'll see what the calculator says.